YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, back on Total War Warhammer, where I've got another replay from Legiro and his friend, was it a China Dragon or something like that? So Legiro this time has opted for 3 Fellbats. He's got the Corpse Cart with the Unholy Lodestone, the Claw of Nagash, and Vlad von Karstein. So this is an exact recreation of the army that I faced, and again, in the first video that I made talking about the dwarfs. And so he's going to perfectly recreate it, and the dwarf player is going to pick something different. And again, you can see he's going with the dwarf circle type approach with gyrocopter support. This is not a bad approach to vampire armies. There's not going to be a great approach. This time he's gone with a grudge thrower. It's just a little bit cheaper than a cannon, and that's probably what drove that decision. He's still firing back here at probably the corpse cart and some of the other stuff, and the gyrocopters are going to be wanting to get shots on the corpse cart and the Claw of Nagash. If the dwarfs want to win, they're going to have to take those units out. Also, the gyrocopters could be handy at going after the cavalry, so that's another potential target. I've said it before and I'll say it again, the dwarf gyrocopters need to be able to fire while moving. I think that's one change that, and I don't know, you all may have disagreed with me. I'm recording all these videos at once, so I haven't seen your comments just yet. You all may have disagreed with me when I said that. I feel like it's fair. I don't think it would be anything unfair for the dwarfs, and it would be one way to help make them a little better without changing anything massive. Just giving these gyrocopters to be better at skirmishing, like so coming forward, firing, and being able to retreat. This would give the dwarfs a massive mobility advantage that would be extremely handy. Again, nice use of the quarrelers here to cover the gyrocopters, pulling the bats back within range, because the bats will take extreme damage in the presence of the quarrelers. It looks like the vampire player knows this, but decides that it's time to tie the gyrocopters down and come in for the charge. So he's got his bats in here, maybe just a little bit early with the bats, though, because the gyrocopters are being protected. He's going to go ahead and pull some of the bats back. Some of the bats remain in combat. He's going to swing Barracks Reavers and the Black Knights around here to the back and see if he can get through this thick dwarf formation. The dwarf formation worked last time. This is a slightly different vampire build, though. Again, you got the Unholy Lodestone Corpse Cart. Vlad von Karstein can raise a White King if he so chooses. Is there a White King already on the battlefield? There is not. So if I see him raise up a White King, we'll know what's going on. I think he can either raise a Graveguard or he can raise a White King. Here comes the Cryptors. These guys are going to be nasty. The Rune of Negation used immediately by the dwarf player. This is something I keep failing to do in my battles, but he did well here. It's going to negate a lot of damage on the charge for these units. So very, very nice play by the dwarf there. The Konigstein Stalkers, these skeleton warriors coming around to the flank. The gyrocopters have taken up position in the rear and are hammering away on the Unholy Lodestone Corpse Cart, which is replenishing extremely quick. And the Claw of Nagash is replenishing very quickly too. It's actually what's under fire, I think. We've got a unit of zombies back here that were raised to help tie down the skirmishers, so cheaper on the mana cost, and we're getting some pretty nice charges from the cavalry here. It's going to cycle around. A lot of damage done to the Dwarf Warriors. The Dwarf Warrior is a good pick to take these cavalry charges. They have a bonus, or they have charge defense against large, and they're shielded. Let's see what runes have popped up. We got, that was another Rune of Negation because he has 2 runesmiths. So another Rune of Negation, so slowing down the damage from the vampires, which he needs badly because his Longbeards are getting racked up front by the Graveguard. His gyrocopters are picking away at the Claw of Nagash, but you can see it's still very much in the fight. We've got a Rune of Oath and Steel up over here on the other. Konigstein Stalkers come into combat, so the back of the dwarf formation now has a gap here that the cavalry might be able to find. Here comes the gyrocopters, most likely about to drop bombs. Yep, on the Graveguard. So pretty devastating bombing here by the gyrocopters. There's not a lot of dwarf units to eat the friendly damage, so this was a pretty solid bombing there. Nice play by the dwarfs, and you can see it caused a lot of problems. If he can eat up all the different replenishment effects from the vampires, he'll be in good shape. Overcast Invocation into Heck comes in. Rune of Negation back in effect with one of the runesmiths. But you can see the dwarf infantry now got cracked by the cavalry. They found those gaps, and the effects on morale are starting to be pretty noticeable. Cryptors have punched through into the center of the fight, so the dwarfs were able to hold out last time, but it is not looking good this time. The Corpse Cart and the Claw of Nagash have not been killed. the damage that they're causing, along with the cavalry havoc wreaked back here, are going to make this one play out in favor of the vampires. I think the gyro bombers did well. They finally took down the Claw of Nagash, and the corpse cart is still up, but it's going to take a lot of fire from the gyrocopters if they choose. But there's so few dwarf units left that are going to be capable of holding it. Yet another Rune of Negation up, though, so the dwarfs doing everything they can to keep their guys in the fight. Let's see. Thorgrim is dying in the fight now to Vlad von Karstein. Vlad von Karstein is a pretty good melee character. He's not fantastic, but he's pretty good. I think he can 1v1 von Karstein in melee with nothing else playing in. So Vlad is the dad there. Black Knights coming in for more charge. Barracks Reavers doing a very good job over here. That's a pretty cool looking unit, the Barracks Reavers. I like those guys. Yeah, the dwarfs are going to eat it here, and they're going to eat it pretty substantially. So the vampires here with a very clear victory. They have not hit the replenishment cap on all their units, though some of them have. I saw one or two here. This one has. The corpse cart, because it was under fire. Look, the corpse cart's still alive, even with the brimstone guns having been around. You can see here that the vampire's ability to crunch a defensive position like this is substantial. I think the dwarf player had a pretty good army pick here. And you can see that this was the exact same army that Han samurai used against me. And a lot of people faulted me, saying that it was just my play style or my pick or whatever else that kept the dwarfs from winning that one. I definitely agree that my play style and my army pick led to my demise. But you can see there that with a pretty nice dwarf pick, lots of support from the runesmiths, support from the gyrocopters, a slayer there in the middle to help out, it still wasn't enough. So that army there of the vampires is quite good at cracking the dwarfs. I think probably the best counter to that type of army. The problem is you never know what the vampires are going to pick, and they have a lot of different things they can pick. And then the dwarfs do have some different options that can kind of throw off the vampires too, if the vampires feel like the dwarf might make something that's a little bit more odd of a pick. So what do I mean by that? So if we think about that for a minute, the Slayer still had some life left. These guys don't rout, so I don't know what happened there. That's kind of weird. They should have fought to the death. In any case, a really good counter pick to this type of vampire army would be like 8 gyrocopters, and then just a bunch of cheap dwarf infantry way off in the corner of the map with some support from, say, like Thorgrim and a runesmith so that they can hold out longer. And you'd put like a couple of skirmishers there, maybe something cheap like a grudge thrower, but probably more focus on the skirmishers and the infantry. And basically you use that gyrocopter spam to pick away at all the large units from the vampires, make them use up all of their regeneration effects to keep those guys alive. And then when the vampires get into combat, you bring those 8 gyrocopters up and you bomb the living crap out of them. So that's probably one of your best ways to counter this with the dwarves, probably one of the only ways to counter this. Now, a vampire player is only going to fall for that for so long. They can bring their own anti-air contingent to help deal with the gyrocopters. And since the gyrocopters have to be stationary when they fire, they're kind of derpy on the skirmish. The vampires definitely have the tools to bring down gyrocopter spam. The problem is that they have to guess that gyrocopter spam. And to be quite frank, in just random matchmaking, most players seem to forget that the dwarfs even have the gyrocopters. I'm not sure why that is, but that's just what I've noticed throughout this week. What'd you all think of this? I really liked it. I think it was a good battle by Legiro and them. Again, I think that these 3 battles that they've sent in do demonstrate that the dwarfs can fight better than they did whenever I used them. There's probably still other things that the dwarfs can try too, so I'm not going to limit it to this, but I still think that after having watched these 3 battles they sent in, and after having played this week with all my dwarf armies, I have been convinced that there are ways to play better with them, and I'm still learning those ways. I think that, like against the vampire, these 2 runesmiths can be a good idea. That was something I hadn't considered before. I'm learning all kinds of other stuff about them as well. The utility of the gyrocopters in the right scenario, how to use the bombs better. I'm learning a lot of these things, how to use the Rune of Negation better, the kind of counter picks that people are going to use against you. I'm learning all those things better, and I feel like it's helping me play the dwarfs better. I have a more than 50% win rate with them this week. I'm still losing to the people who seem to understand the weaknesses of the dwarfs, but when I'm just coming up against randoms, I can win with the dwarfs most of the time. But I'm still struggling against those people who really know how to counterpick them, and it's just reiterating for me the message that there's still a couple of tweaks. In my opinion, the gyrocopters need to be able to fire while moving. I would still like to see the dwarf infantry get some more mass to help them out a little bit longer versus cavalry. I don't want to make them like ridiculous, but a little bit longer. The other thing that could be really handy is maybe potentially making one of the cheaper units of dwarf infantry get a small bonus versus large. Nothing significant per se, but just a tool that helps them a little bit more to deal with the bonus versus large. They're still going to have to face a lot of problems, like the vampires being able to raise up troops right in the middle of their lines, having to deal with units like Empire Knights, Black Knights, Chaos Knights. All those other units are still going to be very difficult for the dwarfs to deal with. So I feel like just a couple of little changes like that might go a long way. So if the dwarfs can maybe get a little bit more mass for their units, and then like I said, maybe one cheaper unit that has, again, I'm not asking for it to be large, but like even just a little bit of anti-large capability would be great. I don't know, the mass change in and of itself might be enough to help in the anti-large department. I don't think it would take a lot to get the dwarfs in to make them quite a lot better without ruining, like I said, kind of the way that they feel. They are a unique faction. They play unique, and I like that, and I don't necessarily want to ruin that. I just want them to be slightly more competitive. What do you all think? Feel free to continue to give me your comments. Hope you're enjoying this week of Dwarf Focus. Appreciate Lagiro and his friend filming this for me. These were very informative. Hope you all learned something from it as well. If you want to send me replays, airtotalwar@gmail.com is the way to do that. Appreciate you watching this. You're fantastic viewers. I love making this content for you, and I'm having a ton of fun this week reading all your comments and making this. And I'm having a lot of fun playing the battles too. Like I said, I feel like I'm learning a lot, and it's a fun challenge for me. I may continue this challenge, or maybe pick up another faction and do a challenge with them, and we'll talk about them some as well. But like I said, really enjoying this, and the interaction with you is fun. If you want to help support me, first of all, you're viewing this video, and that helps me a ton. If you want to subscribe, there's a button in the bottom right-hand corner. And if you like the video, please feel free to like it, leaving comments. All those kind of things definitely help me succeed. Like I've said before, I love making this for you, and I can't wait to come back with more. Appreciate MSI having sponsored the build that I'm filming this with. HeirofCarthage signing out, and this Beard Rimp Stunty, we'll see you all back soon.